All right, so is your imagination making you miserable? So there was a quote I found this week in my study, and it's an anonymous quote, but it says, "Our imagination is responsible for our misery." And I really started to kind of think about that. And of course, whenever I read something, especially when it's anonymous and I don't know the source, I begin to ask myself, is that true? And is that true for me? Is that true for others that I know? And it made me think about an interaction that I had with one of my kids not too long ago. So I was talking to her and talking about an upcoming doctor's appointment, and it was just a routine child visit. It was getting to be that time of year. Really, no big deal. They've done it a million times. They understand what's going to happen. It's the same doctor, so there shouldn't be any sort of uncomfortableness during that. And what I noticed was that she, as we talked about it, was having this increased signs of dread, right? She was really having a problem with it, getting very worked up. And I was trying to ask her questions about that. And I finally just had to kind of back off because I sometimes when you ask people questions head on, they might not know how to answer that. Maybe they're not even aware, right? And I let it go, and we started talking about something else. And then her brother came in and said something, and all of a sudden, her statements turned around. Why she was upset was because she thought she was going to get shots, right? Immunizations. And she didn't want to do that. Her brother had gone for a routine testing after some issues that he had, and he had to have a blood draw. She thought she was going to have a blood draw, right? So she was very scared of these needles that she was going to have to endure, right? Now that makes perfect sense. Many of you probably are the same way. Yeah, I don't want that needle. But you see, and she didn't need them. Not one needle during that whole visit. And there wasn't anything that I could say that was going to help her until she finally got there and found out from the doctor, okay, you don't need these, Ellie. It's okay, right? She was very relieved. Now, it really wasn't a big deal. Or was it? Now, to her, she was using her imagination, and quite frankly, it was making her miserable. So when you use your imagination to make yourself miserable, that's actually called worry, okay? When you use your imagination to take care of a concern and really think about, how do I want to move forward in this? That's called being responsible for your freedom, okay? So you can choose to use your imagination however you want. Are you going to move forward or are you going to move back? Okay? It's all about your thinking. How do I act and react to things, that come my way? So, for example, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to share with you a few examples of my own, actions and reactions and how I make myself miserable with my own imagination. Okay. So again, I strive to share examples with you from me because let's face it, I'm not perfect. And if I'm not perfect, neither are you. Okay, let's be unperfect together. So the first example is, I've been working on this dissertation for my PhD for a while now. Now there's a whole journey that goes into it. Maybe one day I'll do a series of videos for anybody wanting to do a PhD. But the long and short of it is that often you have to turn in a paper or a part of a paper and you have to get it back. And of course there's going to be feedback on it, right? And sometimes it's not the most pleasant thing. It's hard. Receiving that negative feedback, while it's making you better in the process, is sometimes hard to take. So my imagination, really, in essence, to kind of protect myself from the result of that, just kind of invented all of these other things that I needed to do instead of write that paper. You ever been there before? Oh, I can't do this, so I'm going to do this, 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 and this, right? And in reality, your imagination is saying, we don't want that negative feedback, so go do this and this. A lot of people, they find when they're working from home for the first time, they don't necessarily know how to focus. So guess what? The dog needs to go out. The dishes need to be done. Oh, got to switch that laundry, right? And it's our brain that is getting in the way, our thinking. So I've also had this when I knew I was supposed to have what could have been a very difficult or crucial conversation. Knowing I had to bring up something that was difficult for me or the other person or both of us, my imagination says, yeah, let's not do that. And I either work myself up leading up to it, or I, kind of do the same thing. What else can I do in place of it? How can I avoid that? So my imagination is making me miserable. Sometimes I fail to put in a proposal for some work or to speak at a conference. I've done that in the past, not so much anymore. Typically I get the requests, but when I was first starting out, I was putting in a lot of proposals, and I was getting about a 20% rate of they weren't accepting me. And so my imagination, my brain says, yeah, we don't like how that feels. So let's just not put those proposals in. And not only let's just not put the proposal in, but let's create these scenarios and outcomes and excuses for not putting in the proposal. I'm not alone, am I? Okay, you're probably catching this. You're probably seeing it a little bit for yourself now too, right? So what's the real problem? It's not my imagination, it's that my imagination is running wild. Okay? It is running untethered. It's like a wild horse out on the plains, right? Going and doing its own thing. There is a way to help your imagination to stay focused and positive and moving forward. And that is the fix. Okay? So, honestly, I could tell you probably for another 2 hours all of the different things that you could do to get your mind right and set on that path. But I'm here to tell you that if you join our self-image mastery program, that's going to teach you how to do that. Okay? I know many of you who follow me, you're probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it that much longer, honestly. Just a few more days, but if you're in that place where your imagination is running wild and you need to kind of tether it and say, wait a minute, we need to move forward in this life with purpose. Please, please, please take this self-image mastery course. You will not regret it. It will teach you all the ways that your brain and your thinking is awesome and how you can use it to your benefit. Okay? Thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I hope to see many of you in that self-image mastery course soon. And maybe it's not the right timing for you, and that's just fine. Guess what? We'll offer it later in the future too. So with that, I release you into the wild. Go forth and prosper. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you next time. All right. Bye-bye.